Where are you going?
Hey everyone, welcome to part 5 of our Ukulele Sunset color along. So we're coloring her from Hannah Lynn's newest book, Maui Mermaids. And we are really close to completing this and I am so excited. I'm hoping to be able to get the rest of this done in one part, but it might be split into 2 parts because I'm not sure how long it's going to take. So I was really stumped on her hair. We've got quite a few different colors going on. So the 2 that kind of came to my mind were brown, and this is super messy, don't mind the mess, but it just kind of gives you an idea of what she would look like with brown hair. And I really liked this combination because it kind of balances the picture a little bit more. Since we have most of the brown at the bottom, it would give us some more brown at the top. But she is a mermaid and they usually have pretty colorful hair, or in my opinion they should have pretty colorful hair. So I kind of like this blue, or this purple and pink combination as well, and I think that that's what I'm going to go with. I just think it's going to suit her a lot more. So that's what we're going to go with. The pencils I've picked out are black, PC935, dioxazine purple hue, of course, my favorite, PC132, dark purple, PC931, dahlia purple, PC1009, and lavender, PC934. So we should be able to use these pencils to get a really nice ombre hair color on her, and we're just going to dive right into it. So we're just going to zoom in on her hair here, and I'm going to sharpen my pencils. We're going to want fairly sharp pencils for the most part here. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to, let's see, as always I apologize for my squeaky chair. Okay, so I'm going to start with the lavender, and I'm just going to very lightly, see, I'm actually thinking that this wasn't a piece of hair. Oh well, we're going to color it in as a piece of hair. I don't think it's going to matter. So here I'm just kind of mapping out my colors. I want to bring the lavender up to about here. I also want to have the lavender up here a little bit, at the ends of these tendrils of hair. Okay, just like that. Next I'm going to switch to the dahlia purple, and I'm just going to kind of come in where I've left off with the lavender. Again, just really lightly, just mapping out the color. So you're going to add a little bit of it just in here. And then we bring a little bit more up on this side here. And once we're happy with that, we're going to switch to our dark purple. And we can do the exact same thing. I'm just going to lightly put it in here. Just going to go right up to here, although behind here will be our darkest color. And then lastly, we're going to switch to our dioxazine purple hue and just finish it off. Apologies if you guys couldn't see any of that there. The mapping out doesn't have to be too perfect because we're using such light layers. We can always make it darker, and we can even make it a little bit lighter if we want to. Okay, I'm just going to make sure we're in frame here. So now I'm going to stick with my dioxazine purple hue, and using a medium pressure now, I'm just going to go in and really get this color in there. My kitty runs out. Hey kitty girl, there you go. You're okay. Alright. So for this strand here, I'm going to kind of fade it out halfways. I want to kind of mix some of the other colors in at the top here, just so it doesn't look like it's all just one color going into another color. I want to kind of balance them out a little bit. And what it does is it just gives the hair a little bit more interest. Do the same thing here. I'm going to fade it out about 2/3 of the way in. Fade it out about halfway here, and put a little bit of the purple here, and maybe even a little bit behind here as well. I'm pretty happy with that, so I'm just going to come in at the tops again. So basically where our dioxazine purple hue starts, I'm just going to darken it up a little bit by using layers. I'm still not pushing too hard. I want to be able to come back over this with some other colors if I need to. I'm doing quite a few layers to get the color where I want it. And I'm happy with that, so now I'm going to switch to the black. And I'm only going to put this in at some areas where I want the deepest shadows. Make sure to fade that black into the dioxazine purple, so we're just going to lighten up the pressure as we come out. A little bit of a deeper shadow in here, as well as here, because the hair kind of tucks in behind this hair as well. And then I also want to make it darker in basically where her roots would be. Still not completely burnishing the page either. So here we have the purple because the hair is kind of tucking back in here. I'm going to make it just black at the very tip here, but I'm not going to bring too much black into here because I just want the purple to serve as a shadow. Okay, now that I'm done with that, I'm going to go back in with the dioxazine purple hue, and I'm just going to blend into that black a little bit more. Just using that same medium pressure. And already just doing this little bit here, you can kind of see that the hair is coming to life. Now, a lot of the time I say it's best to work in circles. Hair can actually be exempt from that. For the most part, I do use circles, but when I'm doing ombre hair, it's a little bit different. I'll usually just kind of work along the same direction that the waves of hair are going. Because usually we use circles to avoid getting lines in the image, but when we're doing hair, it's actually a good thing to kind of have those lines in there because it gives it a little bit more depth. Okay, I like that. I'm just going to sharpen up my dark purple here and we'll go in with that. So I'm just going to start by putting the dark purple just kind of lightly over where we faded out the black. I do want to leave a little bit of lighter area here for the tip of that. I'll completely color this bit in because it's super tiny. And not using a very firm pressure at all. I want to save as much of the paper as I can, just in case. As I'm thinking here, I'll probably want to add a little bit more dioxazine purple hue. It's a mouthful to say that. So I just want to leave my options open. I'm not going to burnish anything until I'm completely happy with the look. Just make sure. Okay, everything we're working on is in frame. I am notorious for getting a little too into my own head sometimes, and I forget that I'm even recording. Even though I'm sitting in here talking to myself, like that's not weird at all, right? Okay, so you can see I've kind of saved some white areas of a few of these strands here. And I am going to come in here and just kind of create a little bit of a shadow here. So I think that's looking pretty good. Also going to save just a tiny little bit of white on this little section there. And I'm going to work from both directions on this part, and I'm going to try to leave just a little bit of white for another lighter color here, which will give us a nice highlight. And I'm going to do the same thing for this bit here. Except I'm going to leave a little bit more white. Since this is in the front, I want this to have a larger highlight than this hair in the back does. I'm going to start fading it off right about here. I'm going to come in behind the flower and fade this out as well here. And I'm also going to fade this out right about just a little past her shoulder. Okay, so usually I would go back in with the dioxazine purple hue, which I am going to do, but only on some parts. I would probably go in on areas like this, and then it usually ends up too dark, a lot darker than I'd like. So I'm only going to go in on some areas, that being up here. Just because once I burnish with the purple, it's going to knock the color back quite a bit, and I want it to be fairly shadowed in here, as well as in here. I'm also going to put a little bit of dioxazine on the flower in here. And back in here. Just a tiny bit. Maybe a little bit here too. Okay, I gotta find my eraser. I'm not sure where it is. What's this one? There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to switch to the Dahlia Purple, and just going to bring it in on some of these areas here. I find that the Dahlia Purple and the dark purple are really similar in color. I'm going to very lightly go over this part here. I want to bring some of the lavender in there. So just using a medium pressure and just putting in color where we've left highlights in these darker areas. I'm going to bring this down to about here, I think. And the rest of that is going to be the lavender. And then we'll work down this way a little bit. So I'm going to leave a little triangle in here for the lavender. I'm going to leave a little bit of this section here. Same with down here. And then once we get past these little wavy hairs here, I'm going to start fading it out. And I'm going to give myself a nice long fade, so it'll kind of be solid color in around here, and then it'll start to fade out really gradually, because I want to leave quite a bit of the Dahlia Purple pigment for the lavender to blend into, which will create just kind of a mix between the two, which will give us like a medium color of them, if that makes any sense. Okay, I like that. I'm going to, first of all, make sure you guys can see here. Yes, you guys can see everything except the very bottom, so try and be careful when dealing with that. So I'm going to come in here with my lavender, and I'm using a fairly firm pressure here, and then I'm going to fade it out. I'm going to put a little bit in at the tip here and fade it out. And same with here. Then I'm also going to bring some into the tip here, and when I get to the very tip, I think I'm actually going to introduce another color, which will be the white. So that is PC938, and I put just a tiny little bit of pigment at the ends, and then I'm just going to go back over it with the white to really lighten it up, which will create an even lighter version of that lavender, and will make it kind of more pastel. So that's all I'm going to do with the lavender for now. I would like to switch back to the dark purple, and I'm going to start burnishing because I'm liking how the tops of this is looking. So I'm going to start by going over and using this to burnish the dioxazine purple hue, and I'm just going to try and follow the layers that we've put down in terms of when to fade out. Okay, sorry, my husband came home, but he's leaving for a little bit, so I have time to hopefully finish her hair at least. So again, I am using a really firm pressure. I am burnishing now. It is kind of hard to differentiate between the dark purple and the dahlia purple. So I'm just going to kind of do my best there. I'm just going to bring the dark purple down as far as I want it.
How you look at it.
So now I'm going to switch to the dahlia purple, and I'm just going to blend into everything up here. I'm going to go over this spot a little bit here. Again, using that really, really firm pressure. That's looking pretty good. I'm really liking that. It looks a lot darker than it actually is on camera, but I think it's really suiting for her. So now that we got the top of her head done, we'll start working on the rest of her hair. And we're going to fade out on these little bits here. I am going to color over it completely with the dahlia purple, but just lightly. Here though, I am going to leave it for pretty much just a straight lavender at the ends of these pieces of hair. So right about here is the last of our solid dahlia purple. So from there, I'm just going to lighten up my pressure and start fading it out. Take this chance just to get rid of, oh, I think I just made it worse. Grab my, this is what I should have used to begin with, is my Prismacolor kneaded eraser. That's really in there. That's okay, we'll be using purple as a shadow in her skin, so it won't be too bad. I'm definitely really glad that I went with the purple hair. Mermaids deserve to have super pretty hair. Okay, so lastly, I'm going to switch in, well, not lastly. Oh, sorry, my kitty's on the shelf again. What are you doing, girl? She is my coloring buddy. Can you lay down? Lay down. We will be going over with the white on some of these places, but for the most part, our lavender is our last color. I'm going to bring just a little bit into some of these areas up top here. Even with this being burnished to the point where it's like shiny, I can see how shiny it is. I can still get a little bit more in there. Okay, Lilo. I love you, but you are shaking the camera like crazy. You need something to play with. Okay. So I'm still able to get a little bit of that lavender color in there because it's such a light and really creamy pencil. So it just gives us a little bit more interest to the top there. And another thing I love about this color is it's kind of like a blue toned purple, so it really stands out against the dark purple, which is more of a red toned purple. It just really complements each other. So for all these tendrils on the outside, I'm just going to completely burnish them with the lavender. For these ones here on the inside, I want to do mostly lavender, and then I want to fade off the pressure and just put a little bit of pigment in at the tips, and we'll go in with the white there. And then we'll keep carrying on. So because this is such a light creamy color, it does kind of have the tendency to kind of mute the line work of the image. So for the most part, I'm going to try to stay within the lines with this color, just so it doesn't mute the line work too bad. Okay, here I'm going to fade it out, even though I really don't think that's a strand of hair, but that's okay. Fade it out here, and then everything under here I'm going to fade out. And we're going to put just a little bit of a solid lavender underneath this tendril, and then fade that out as well. And then lastly, we're going to go in with our white. And just blend that upward, which gives us pretty much the equivalent to grade lavender, just without so much gray. So there's her hair finished. I actually really like that. I'm not sure what we're at for time, so I'm not sure what else we're going to do. We are going to do her lips though, so I'm going to start with the Dioxazine Purple Hue. And I'm basically going to outline her bottom lip and fade it in a little bit. I'm going to completely cover in the top lip. I'm going to skip the dark purple and go straight to the Dahlia Purple. And I'm going to blend that into the Dioxazine Purple Hue a little bit. I'm going to leave this little sliver of white at the top. And then I'm going to switch to the lavender and go over everything. So you could do normal colored lips if you want to, but I really like that that mermaid lip matching the hair color, kind of like I did for this one. Mermaids give me an excuse to do some pretty neat lip colors. I just realized I did miss this little piece right here, so I'm just going to go in with the lavender there and just color that in. Alright, so if my math is correct, I think we're at about 40 minutes, give or take. So we are going to jump into her skin. I think we will get everything done in this part. It might take us a little bit longer, or I should say it might be a longer part, but that's okay. Oh, so I'm going to use my my usual go-to skin colors, actually inspired by Shine Bright Design. So the colors are Parma Violet, PC1008, Nectar, PC1092, Peach, PC939, Light Peach, PC927, and White, which is PC938. I'm also going to be using, for the blush, Process Red, PC994, and Hot Pink, PC993. For her eyes, we'll quickly do her eyes first. I'm going to be using some of the same colors that we've used in the greenery here. So, Cobalt Turquoise, PC105, Light Green, PC920, Pale Sage, PC1089. So I'm going to start with my Cobalt Turquoise, and I'm just going to kind of focus this more at the top and the sides. And I'm going to fade it out. And I want to fade it out quite a ways because I want something for the light green to be mixing in with. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. And then I'm just going to go in. I'm pretty much going to burnish the top right underneath her eyelashes here. So next I'm going to switch to the light green. I'm going to use a fairly firm pressure, and I'm just going to blend that into the Cobalt Turquoise. And then right around the middle here, I'm going to really lighten up my pressure because I want to go over that with the Pale Sage. Which is the last step for the color. I'm going to put the Pale Sage over everything and blend it in. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the black, which is PC935. I'm going to color in these pupils. And then you also want a really sharp point for this. I'm going to just create some little lines going up towards the pupil. Do a few coming out from the pupil as well. And then I'm going to go in with the cobalt turquoise and I'm going to kind of do the same thing. And I'm going to go back in with the pale sage and just go over everything again just to kind of make it so those lines aren't so sharp. Just make it look a little bit more natural. And there's your eyes finished for the most part. Okay, so now going back in with our skin, I'm using the Parma Violet, and I'm going to use this to pretty much figure out where our shadows are. So I pretty much like to frame their faces with this color. So I'm using a really light pressure. Just trying to figure out where the shadows are going to be. And I am going to add a nose. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. And since her face is kind of turned, it looks like her face is kind of turned to the left a little bit. I'm going to just do the nose part on her left and just like a tiny little bit on the right. I'm not sure if you can even see that yet, but we'll accentuate it a little bit later on. I'm going to kind of give her a little bit of a Cupid's bow here, as well as put some shadow in under her lip and to the left of her lip. Then I'm going to go in under her neck here. I'm going to use a medium light pressure. I'm going to fade that out right about there. Alright, so keep in mind that the sun is coming in from behind her, but I'm going to pretend that there is another little bit of light source just in front of her, maybe like a light glow or something. So for the most part, everything to the left of her is going to be in shadow. I'm going to shadow a lot of the left side of her body. And this is why I should always do the nail polish after. So I got a little bit of nail polish here, so now my pencil doesn't want to go over top of that. Now we had that problem somewhere else too. I can't remember where that was. Hopefully we'll be able to find it. Give a little bit of shadow inside her belly button there. Okay, so there we are with our shadows. I know she looks kind of creepy right now with her purple, but it will look a little bit better. The purple and the nectar go really well together to create a nice skin tone. I'm not completely done with the shadows though. I am going to go back in and add just another layer of purple to the darkest shadows. So underneath her chin here, in the crook of her arm right here would be a little bit darker. Same with underneath her tummy here. And underneath the ukulele a little bit in the corner here. As well as there. And maybe just darken up this shadow on this right side of her face since her hair is covering it here. Okay, so I do want to fix this right away. So what I'm going to do is find my Posca pen. So I'm just going to take my Posca pen and I am going to pretty much just, I'm not exactly sure where all the nail polish is, so I'm just going to follow the line here and white that out. Now I'm going to switch to the nectar, and I'm going to start laying that over top of the Parma Violet. Now I like to think of the nectar and the Parma Violet as one color, so I pretty much just put it in around where I put the Parma Violet. I don't really bring it out much further than that. Sometimes I will a little bit. And again, I'm still using that medium light pressure. Okay, while we're waiting for the Posca pen to dry, I'm going to give it a couple more minutes. We're just going to focus on the face. So I'm going to come in and I'm pretty much going to burnish our deepest shadows. So basically just along the outlines. I'm not going to burnish it around her cheeks though, I'm going to leave because we want to put the blush in there. So now I'm going to switch to the peach. And I'm basically going to go over everything with that as well. Just really lightly around that cheek area though. Now I'm going to switch to the Processed Red. I'm going to put a little bit in on her cheeks here before I accidentally end up burnishing it. So what I like to do is I usually start at the corner of her cheek and I'll kind of fade it out kind of like a third of the way. into her eye, or below her eye, I should say. And then from there, I'll switch to my hot pink, and I'll fade it out just a little bit past halfway below her eye. Now that we got that, I'm going to switch to the light peach, and I'm going to go ahead and start burnishing a lot of this. What I like to do for their eyes is I like to pretend that there's just this little divided bit between the lower line and the upper eyelash of her eye. And I'll just kind of fade the color in there and leave it like that. I'm just going to lightly go over my highlight areas, which is just around here. And also here. And I'm going to burnish everything else. Still a little bit of work to do on her nose though, I think. Okay, I'm going to switch back to the peach. I'm just going to put a little bit more of a peach shadow on this side of her nose. And then switch back to the light peach and just kind of blend that in. I'll leave a little bit of a white highlight on her nose. And then lastly, I'm going to go in with my white. I'm going to make sure that it's cleaned off. And then I'm just going to blend into those lighter areas. I like to blend into the whites of the eyes as well. And I'll just kind of go over everything and blend it all in together and lighten up the skin a little bit. And there's her face. So our color down here is dry, so let's see if we can go over top of this with our Parma Violet. Just really carefully. It is going to look a little bit funny, unfortunately, but it's okay. So now that we got that, let's switch to our nectar. And we're just going to do the same thing that we did for the face. I'm going to just start going over these shadowed areas. I'm not going to completely burnish these darker shadowed areas because if I did, they'd be a little too dark. The more I go over that spot, the funnier it looks.
Yeah.
That's okay. Hopefully you guys didn't make the same mistake that I did, and then yours will look a little bit better. I will, however, figure out a way to overcome that and kind of fix it. I forgot about this little piece right there. I'm just going to color that in a little bit with the nectar. So I'm going to go in and burnish my lighter shadows. I'm not going to burnish the darker shadows, and I'm only going to burnish them right at the very edges. And then fade them out. Next, we're going to switch with the peach, and that's the color that we're going to use to finish burnishing our lighter shadows. I'm not going to use this to burnish the darker shadows though. I'm going to go over very lightly in the darker shadows though. Okay. Happy with that, so now I'm going to go in with my light peach. On this arm, I'm pretty much just going to burnish everything with the light peach. It's definitely not my best skin tone. It's not going like it usually does. I'm not sure why. And I don't mean that as in a bad thing, I just mean it's turning out a lot. Usually it's more of a lighter skin tone than this. I'm not saying I don't like it, just saying I wonder what I changed. Okay, so I am going to go over these darker shadows with a medium pressure here. Very close to burnishing them. I will be going over them with white. I'm going to fade out my light peach here on her neck, just to kind of give that a little bit of a highlight. And same with here on her shoulder. I'll leave a little bit of white. I'll try on both sides, both the right side of her arm here. Although this part's pretty small, so it might not be possible. I'm going to leave a little bit of white on the right side of her tummy here. So everything else we're going to blend the white in with. I'm going to start on the highlighted areas. Get those nice and light. And then I'm going to do everything else except the shadows. I'll do those last. Say except for the darkest shadows. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pencil and I'm going to start to go over everything in the water here. Now the only trick to this is I'm going to keep going this way. I'm not going to do circular motions. I'm going to keep going this way. I'm going to go along the same way as the lines of the water. And you can already tell it kind of blurs it a little bit. It pulls the color, which is exactly what we want. to be careful going into other colors. You don't really want to transfer the colors. And have to be really careful up along this line too. I'm just going to start by doing little tiny strokes up along the whole side of the border here. Does eat up quite a bit of your pencil because you are pushing down pretty hard. But in my opinion, the effect is definitely worth it. I'm going to sharpen this a little bit. You definitely don't need a really sharp point here because your pencil would probably snap if you did. So there is that side done. I think I got everything. So just the difference between these two sides is pretty crazy. I'm going to start in on this side and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Now this side's going to be a little bit trickier because it's near the spine of the book. Make sure that your papers are really in there. And I'm going to kind of do the same thing as I did on the other side. I'm just going to go in along this whole left side here. And just carefully actually takes a lot more concentration than you would think. Okay. You are pushing quite hard, so if you need to take a break, go ahead. I know my hand is already starting to get sore, and I don't suffer from any wrist problems that I'm aware of, so if you need to take a break, feel free to do so. If you have somebody that could help you out and do this for you, since it's a fairly easy part, they could probably help you and do it for you, just so you didn't damage your wrist or anything. Last little bit here. we go. So I'm just going to come back in with my Sally Hansen Complete Salon Manicure Polish in Snow Globe. And I've already put that here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it on the rest of that little upraised fin here. I'm going to try and get as much of the clear polish off as I can while still keeping some glitters. And then another thing I was thinking of doing, I've never done this before, so I'm not really sure how it's going to turn out, but I've got all these glitters, or all these polishes. This one's kind of more on the purplish blue side, it's kind of like a chameleon polish. But a lot of these are super sheer, so I actually tested them on a sheet of paper to see how they would look. And I want to try and put one over top of all the water to kind of give it a little bit more of a blue tinge. So I did like this Miracle Gel because it's really, really clear and it's got just the pink sparkle, but I also did like the Hard as Nails Frozen Solid too, but it's not quite as opaque as I want it to be. So I'm not really sure which one I want to use. I think I'm going to go with the Frozen Solid though. This is super cheap. I actually got this at my dollar store. So I'm just going to go right in and just start putting it in here. You can wait and see what it looks like before you think about doing this, or if you don't want to do it at all, that's fine. You can skip this step. Probably also just use a Wink of Stella pen. I am a little bit extra though, I guess. So I'm just kind of using the light bouncing off my paper to see where I've already gotten the polish and where I haven't. Does not have to be perfect. So like I said, I've never done this before. This is kind of an experiment on my part, and depending on how it turns out, maybe I'll use this technique in the future as well. Can't really see it on camera, but it is making the water look a little bit interesting. It's just a little bit of a challenge trying not to get it on any of the other stuff in the water. definitely a lot more noticeable in the lighter bits of the water. Which is kind of interesting. I thought it would be the opposite. And I'm going to have to open my window here right away because, oh my gosh, this stuff stinks. This is just way too much nail polish. Whew. Okay. Window is getting opened. Oh, fresh air. Yeah, I definitely recommend if you're going to do this to do it in a well-ventilated area. So it's kind of interesting. From head on, it doesn't really distort the image at all, but once you get the sun on it, you get this really pretty shimmer, which I am actually really, really in love with that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is take some acrylic paint. You could probably use maybe a Posca pen and a baby wipe for this too, but it'd be a little bit more difficult because it's such a small area. So I'm going to put just a tiny bit of acrylic paint on a palette here, and I just use butter lids and yogurt lids and stuff. And then I'm going to take my spray bottle and just dilute the paint down with a couple sprays. Then I'm going to use a brush to just kind of mix the paint a little bit, and I want it just kind of this, if you can see here, this milky white consistency. So it's kind of see-through. I'm going to get most of it off my brush, and then, oh, no, I want to touch that, it's wet. I'm going to come in here, and I probably should have done this before doing the glitter because it doesn't want to stay. Just going to keep mixing it around here. I'm going to bring some up on here as well. So it's taking me a little bit of work and a lot of blending this in, but it is working. I think the key is to just kind of move it around while the paint is drying. Of course, if I'd have done this like I should have and done the glitter last, it would have been a lot easier. Basically what I'm doing here is I am trying to fog out the fins to kind of make them look really sheer and translucent, so you can tell that they're there, but you can still see the color underneath. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. So now what I'm going to do while I wait for all that to dry, should be okay to close my window a little bit here. I apologize, I have to turn my page here, but I'm going to go in with my black. And I'm going to darken up the lines around her eyes. And darken up her eyelashes. I personally cannot have a Hannah Lynn girl without having her have extremely dramatic eyelashes. I'm also going to take my black and just lightly darken up her eyebrow. I would probably actually use my the same purple hue, but I don't want to get that back out, so I'm just going to use black. What else did I want to do? Let's see, I'm going to take my Posca pen and just put a little bit of sparkles in her eyes. Just like that, maybe just a little touch on her lips. Although I don't like that last one there. I should have just left it at 2. Here, what I did with my brush, get rid of that. Okay. So I'm also going to just kind of dot in some white at the bottom of the waterfall here, just like that. I'm going to outline the black. Just kind of make it look a little bit more like water. Same here, I'm going to outline this bit of water here. Just like that, you guys can see. I'm going to put a couple more dots in this hibiscus here. It's not quite dry yet. I think I'm going to outline these pearls. And that is not dry. I just got hair in it. Crap. Okay. There we go. I'm going to go back in on her lip and kind of go over top of that. I hate how the paint turns purple when you put it on purple stuff. I think this is hopefully dry enough. I'm going to start using my Posca pen to just kind of put in the white bits of the water. So I'm going to put a white line over top of all of the lines that Hannah has in, and I'll even probably draw a few of my own as well. So these lines on the water really make it look like water. Kind of makes a little bit more sense with the reflection too. And that's kind of where the reflection stops looking silly. Another couple things I could do, I'm not sure if I'm going to though, is I could go over around the clouds with the white. I'm not sure how that would look though. Let's just do a little one to see how it looks. I think I kind of like it. Let's go ahead and do it. So if you don't like that, you don't have to do it. I do like the black lines against the colors, but I do kind of like the look that the white brings into it. Might even put just a couple stars in here. So the trick with doing stars is you want them to be different sizes and just kind of randomly placed in there. I'm going to focus them more towards the darker color, darker blue. I'm going to bring just a few of them into the lighter blue. Sorry, you guys couldn't even see that. Okay, I'm also going to... I heard you. You don't have to keep playing. You can just leave it, okay?
Well, how to turn it off?
You don't have to turn it off. I'll turn it off. It's all good, babe. Just like that. And I think our fins should be dry enough. I'm going to go over those with the white as well. Okay, it's dry enough. One thing I'm going to do with mine though is I'm going to bring my white up to about here and just kind of make it a little bit thicker. Just like that. I'm going to bring in some more of those, just go over the lines that Hannah has in there. Just like that. And I think that's it. I think that's all I want to do. Yep. She is finished. So this is Ukulele Sunset. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I'm super glad that she turned out okay. I have to admit that I was a little bit worried. I'm super happy with the reflection. That's the main part that I was worried about, but thankfully, even though it kind of looks ridiculous in the beginning, blending it all with that one color and then putting the water lines in it really makes a huge difference. So she is just beautiful. She is super sparkly and shimmery, although the sparkles aren't really showing up very well. I just absolutely love how she's turned out. I am just going to really lightly go over that blue, so I don't really want to knock back the white in there too much. And there, now that water matches the rest of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this color along / tutorial, whatever you want to call it. I have to say I am so happy with her. She might actually be one of my new favorites. I do have another color along coming up in July. We're going to do a Christmas in July kind of thing, which is what I told you guys that I would do, and we're going to be coloring the second page of Partridge in a Pear Tree. So anyways, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed again, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Where are you going?